Writing dialogue becomes easy the moment you start treating it like it's another part of your story. We often think of dialogue as so many different parts, so many different textures and nuances, when in all actuality, the realistic part of dialogue is how you yourself, the author and writer, understands character interaction and most of all, social interactions. The three easiest ways to get across this idea of dialogue is to not only understand realism within the real world, write with a purpose using your characters, and finally, understand consistency and get better at it. These three will not only change the way you view dialogue, but will make you a better writer in the long run. Hello! If you don't know me, I'm Arnel Arcega. I'm one of the healthiest writers you will ever meet in your lifetime, and in this video, I'm going to talk about dialogue, what I've learned about it in the past several weeks, as well as understand what you can get better at as the author and writer you're striving to be. If you want to get help in your own personal story, then check out my Instagram down below, and we can get started working. Let's get started on the first point I talked about in this video: realism and dialogue. The point of dialogue is illustrating how well you can talk in social interactions. Even if you aren't writing humans, you can still use social interactions to fuel the way you're writing dialogue. No matter what language, no matter how the characters speak, dialogue is the single most important part of your story next to exposition. It's layering the foundation between social interactions, and without it, you're honestly just illustrating an essay. Often there's great stories without dialogue, but in most cases, dialogue is one of the most important aspects of moving your story forward. Let's imagine this book as a character. The book asks me a question, I follow with an answer, and then we keep on exchanging ideas in which we can see some characters' thoughts. This is the idea of a character. We focus on their mind and what the author sees. From there, the character spews out ideas, and even in all perspectives, we can see what the story is leading to. First person point of view, the third person point of view, and even second person point of view, all focuses on what we can see through our mind. The author, the narrator, and the writer tend to share the same goals, and they tend to share what they want in the story. To move it, they need to have dialogue explained and thoroughly looked at. Going back to that first point of realism and how dialogue is interacted, what makes it realistic is not about how we see the dialogue, but rather how cohesive it is. Let me explain. Using this book, I'm interacting with this book as a character. Character A asks me a question and I'm character B. We exchange ideas back and forth until we get to a resolution. As most stories go, it's all about conflict and resolution. How we can fuel that conflict to the resolution is how we can move the dialogue forward. In many cases, we need to look at how dialogue works to make it better. Often, we don't want it to be too realistic, but we don't want it too static in the feeling. It's a fluid moment of time that reminds me a lot of jazz. When you think of jazz, it's this huge complex web of ideas, when in all actuality, it's just moving parts left and right. That is dialogue. When writing dialogue, I don't suggest to keep on saying character A says this or character B says this. Those are great in establishing who's saying what. In the case of being realistic, move the dialogue in a manner that will not only educate the readers better, but also tell its story in a cohesive and confident way. Let's say character A says this, I say something back, and that's it. We just have to continue writing it well and forward. In a lot of ways, dialogue is just exposition with a few extra steps. We need to think about how we can take our stories forward by showing what we see in our minds. Use dialogue within the story's context to tell a more cohesive idea. Tell it to explain backstories, tell it to explain motives, and then use it to illustrate your theme by the end of the story. This leads into my second point. To write better dialogue, you need to understand the purpose of the dialogue. Who's saying it? What is the character explaining? Let's say this book is talking about me as the creator, talking about how I can fuel my own desires to write. They explain their own motives to write. I think of a question and then I ask it. It's all about moving several different pieces. To get better at understanding these pieces, we need to look at real life dialogue. In all cases of history, Authors have used social interactions they have used throughout their lifetime to look into dialogue. The issue with many authors is that a lot of them tend to be introverted. And it's not a struggle in the fact that you are introverted, but it's the fact that you willingly choose not to interact with people. I get it. I was there before. Back in my middle school years, I was very introverted and had a huge shyness towards the world. However, the best authors and those who want to write the best kinds of stories tend to be successful through their confidence, how much ego they can personally hold to write their story so that they can feel it for themselves. One of the best advices I've always heard about stories is to write it about yourself. Write it to yourself and then switch it, slowly integrating elements that your audience would most likely love. You can't tell what your audience is fully thinking 100% of the time. You will always have people who say you write good dialogue and people who say you write bad dialogue. But to write good, consistent dialogue, you need to know the purpose. What purpose do you want character A here to explain to character B, me? What purpose do you want the story to illustrate within the story's walls? That's what you want to understand about dialogue. When it comes to thinking about how they can interact, it's not hard. Think about the most simple words a lot of people around your age use, or use the character's demographic to tell that story. Tell it in a manner that can move the story along without it feeling contrived and boring. Once you understand that, dialogue becomes the single easiest part of your story to this day. The third and final point I want to illustrate with dialogue is the purpose of moving it. In particular, being consistent. You already understand the realism part, going out and interacting with people. Other things I would suggest along with going out is to watch more TV, obviously read more books, and illustrate yourself as the character within that world. But to be more consistent at writing dialogue, you need to be consistent at writing itself. You need to know what you can do to write better. Back in my first book, I've written tens of thousands of dialogue. Despite my own disdain towards that book and one day hoping to rewrite it before I officially publish it, I do understand that one of my favorite elements was writing dialogue. I love the social interactions and how you could feel the character's emotions. It allows your audience to feel that same way. And once you feel the same emotions your characters do, I'm telling you, your dialogue will be a lot more fluid and a lot more natural. There will be times in which you think you're writing bad dialogue. At the same time, there will be times you're writing impeccable dialogue. So good that it can honestly move the story by itself. Use the dialogue in the fact that it's a genuine fun process. Use it to fuel your energy to write a better story, to have character motives, backstories, and have the theme layered out through their words alone. Dialogue is one of the greatest elements of storytelling, and when you understand that, it takes your own consistency. It takes your own discipline to get better at it. Me, as the healthy writer I am, it's truly moving coming from a reader to an author. Most authors are learners, and by understanding what I'm telling you here, I hope you can use this information to write better dialogue. And even if you just want help to write more words, take in what I'm saying. I'm using very concise and considerate words, so don't leave it off to the side and brush it away because you feel like it. Regardless, I hope you enjoyed this message and you can take in what you need with dialogue. Talk to me about understanding dialogue better, and when you feel that motive to write even more, continue writing no matter how much it stops you. Write until you're done, and I'll see you next time. Keep on reading, keep on writing, check out my books in the top link of the description, and see you then.